The Fort Erie Podcast with Brent Jones. Brent Jones starts now.
That is me. I'm Brent Jones. Hello and welcome to the Fort Erie Podcast. This is episode 67 and it is Tuesday, September 12th, 2023. Now, yesterday was the 22nd anniversary of September 11th, 2001. Coming up in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the 9/11 attacks sort of through the lens of the town of Fort Erie. We'll do that in a segment of This Month in Fort Erie History. We're also going to play some Fort Erie trivia today. I've got two contestants lined up who will be competing for free pizza, and Grace Wybraniak will be joining me as well. She'll be joining me by phone to talk about her party decor business called Crafted by Grace. But I wanted to start today's episode by asking just kind of a simple question. Dear listener, are you the kind of person who loses your mind when the power goes out? Now, I get that our town experiences, in my estimation, more power outages than most municipalities across the region. Some of them are planned, some of them are unplanned. I get that it can be annoying, but usually when the power goes out in Fort Erie, it comes back on pretty fast. And when the power goes out, it certainly isn't any one person's fault. It's, it isn't a good reason, for instance, to start sending hateful messages to Canadian Niagara Power on Facebook and Twitter. Why do I bring this up, you might be asking? Well, because on September 2nd, 2023, 10:28 p.m., the power went out for 31 minutes. And the sheer number of Fort Erie keyboard warriors I saw on Facebook and Twitter calling for people to be fired, demanding bill credits for the inconvenience, it was as though some people thought the more angry they got, the faster the power would come back on. And some of those responses were so dramatic, it just got me thinking, like, this town could have its own primetime courtroom drama. I wonder what that might sound like.
In the court of public opinion, power outages, both planned and unplanned, are considered especially heinous. In the town of Fort Erie, dedicated residents who complain about these vicious inconveniences on Facebook are members of an elite group known as keyboard warriors. These are their stories.
September 2nd, 2023. 10:28 p.m. A user named Steven creates the first post in Fort Erie Questions and Answers regarding the unplanned outage. It reads, "Anyone else's power just go out? I'm at Ferguson and Albany." It isn't until 1 minute later at 10:29 p.m. that a user named Richie confirms that Crystal Beach is also without power. And at 10:32 p.m., a user named Cheryl confirms that the power is out in Ridgeway as well. 10:37 p.m. Canadian Niagara Power confirms on Twitter that there is a town-wide power outage and that efforts to restore our power are already underway. That doesn't stop one local Twitter user from responding, Ridgeway as well, as if Canadian Niagara Power is unaware that Ridgeway is part of the town of Fort Erie. 10:38 p.m. A user named Saeed tweets, yet another episode of Canadian Niagara Power mismanagement. Other angry tweets and Facebook comments follow. A user named Lupstar tweets, spend some of those billions and fix the issues. This is an obvious reference to the Scrooge McDuck-style vault of solid gold coins that Canadian Niagara Power keeps hidden from the public. Then a Facebook user named Jennifer piles on, posting, it's called Population Boom. The more houses built, the more they need to add to the grid. Nobody bothers to inform this person that our grid currently operates nowhere near full capacity, especially at a night that is 19 degrees Celsius and virtually no one is running their air conditioning. 10:42 p.m. A user named Laura posts a screenshot from Niagara 411 in the Fort Erie Questions and Answers Facebook group, which provides the real reason the power is out. It reads, QEW, Toronto-bound ramp from Gilmore Road in Fort Erie, reports of a hydro wire down across the roadway, fire department responding. Some users have trouble believing this might be connected, as it contradicts what they already know to be true, that Canadian Niagara Power deliberately turns the entire town's power off on Labor Day weekend just for kicks. 10:59 p.m. My wife texts me to report that the power is back on, bringing the entire 31-minute ordeal to a rather unceremonious conclusion. And in that 31-minute window, a total of 148 local residents jumped on Fort Erie Questions and Answers to share their thoughts on the matter. 148. This figure does not include those who posted to other Fort Erie-based Facebook groups, such as Fort Erie Community Watch or Fort Erie Our Town. This figure also does not include those who posted directly to their own timeline about it. And this figure certainly does not include those who courageously posted to other platforms such as Twitter or Threads. Let me be the first to say thank you to all of you brave keyboard warriors for helping to resolve this matter so quickly. May we never forget the true heroes of September 2nd, 2023.
Fort Erie Real Estate with Brent Jones, your friendly local realtor with RE/MAX Niagara Realty.
I've got a hot new listing for you this week. It's located at 306 Cooper Road in Welland. And now, I don't usually spend a lot of time talking about my out-of-town listings because this is the Fort Erie podcast after all. But in this particular case, my clients, the sellers, they're actually Fort Erie natives and they'd like to come home. So listeners, I'm asking you, if you know somebody who might be a good fit for this property, please send them my way. Call or text 905-626-8826. And let's get this young couple back to the town of Fort Erie, right where they belong. So 306 Cooper Road, let me tell you a little about it. It's a detached 1.5-story home. It's close to amenities, just a short distance from downtown, 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, a finished basement, a detached single-car garage with a nice workshop attached to it. It's on a corner lot. There were some recent updates, quite a few updates to the home, including a newly renovated kitchen, furnace, central air and ductwork, were all replaced in the past 3 years. There's some new flooring. They put in a new 3-stage water filtration system. The front porch was just replaced this year. It's a lot of house for an asking price of $485. It would be ideal for those starting out or for a young family, perhaps. If you'd like to get more info or to book a private viewing, call me directly at 905-626-8826.
Fun and games on the Fort Erie podcast.
All right, it's time for another epic round of Fort Erie trivia. I've got 2 callers on the phone. Let's start with Carol. Carol, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Are you ready to play some trivia?
I sure am.
Okay, and then on the other line, we got Amy. Amy, how's the day going?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay. You consider yourself a pretty clever lady?
I mean, I try.
Okay. Well, we're going to find out. Here are the rules. You're each going to take turns answering trivia questions about Fort Erie. Now, whenever I say Fort Erie, I'm referring to the entire town, which includes Ridgeway, Crystal Beach, and Stevensville. Nobody can help you answer these questions. No Googling, no cheating. No taking hours to respond. You got to think fast. You got to do this on your own. And I get the final say on whether your answer is right or wrong. And whoever gets to 3 correct answers first after an equal number of turns is the winner and gets $25 to Central Pizza. Carol, let's start with you. Do you understand the rules?
I do. Yep.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're ready.
Okay, Carol, first question goes to you. What structure in Fort Erie's North End turns 150 this year?
Oh, the church.
I'm sorry. No, it's the International Railroad Bridge. Amy, over to you. What day of the week is the Stevensville Farmers Market?
Sunday?
It is Wednesday, I'm afraid. Carol, back to you. Who is our federal member of parliament?
Wingate.
He's provincial. That would be our MPP. Our federal MP is Tony Baldinelli.
Okay.
You were close. Amy, on to you. What brand of gas station opened this year at Gorham and Garrison?
Gorham and Garrison.
Quick.
Pioneer?
It was an Ultramar. It's an Ultramar. Carol, what item is set to replace the Kinsman Pool at Sugar Bowl Park?
That would be, just trying to think. Splash pad?
It is a splash pad. It is a splash pad, Carol. You're on the board. You got yourself a point.
Yes.
Okay, Amy, over to you. What company was awarded the town's on-demand transit contract?
On-demand transit contract.
Who's running the on-demand transit?
Fort Erie Transit.
Fort Erie Transit is operated by Regional Limo, Amy. Carol, next question. There are 3 streets in our town that start with the letters PH. Name 2 of them.
That's Phillips and Phibbs.
Sorry, can you say those again?
Phillips and Phibbs.
Phillips and Phipps, is that what you said?
Yeah, I did.
That is a point, Carol. You got 2 points, 1 more to take it home. Amy, we got to get you on the board. What specialties?
I'm trying.
I know you are. What specialty silicone manufacturer announced in July that our town would be home to its newest location?
Airbus?
It's Siltec, I'm afraid. Carol, what fast food chain is taking over the building formerly occupied by Tzatziki Time?
That is shawarma something.
It is a shawarma place called Osmos. Osmos is taking over that building. Okay, Amy, there are 3 new burrito chains that opened in our town this year. Name 2 of them.
Burrito Bros and, is it Mucho Burrito?
It unfortunately is neither of those. We have Burrito Guys, Bar Burrito, and Quesada were the 3 that opened this year. Carol.
Quesada. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, you were close. You were on the right track. Carol, Green Acres Family Restaurant is at the intersection of Garrison Road and what side street?
Green Acres Drive.
Carol, you are the winner of today's round of trivia. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Awesome.
Green Acres
Good
Drive.
going, Carol.
Yeah,
Thank
Carol.
you, Amy.
Well, hey, Amy, I want to thank you for playing. Appreciate you joining us. And hey, today just wasn't your day for trivia, I guess, eh?
I guess.
All right. And Carol, you hang on. I'm going to explain to you how you can claim your prize. For everybody listening, if you would like to play in an upcoming round of Fort Erie trivia, it's as easy as leaving a message on the Byrd Box. Call 289-599-2973 and let me know that you'd like to play.
You're listening to the Fort Erie Podcast.
I've got Grace Wybraniak. Grace, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I didn't mispronounce your name, did I?
No, you did a really good job. I know it's a scary name, but you did a pretty good job.
Well, thanks. I practiced ahead of time. I didn't want to mess it up. No. So you're joining me today, Grace, to talk about your business, Crafted by Grace. Can you tell listeners what that is?
So my business is we do balloons and we specialize in marquees and basic decor for all your party needs.
When you talk about doing, balloon art and arches and garlands and sort of light up marquee letters, like who is this for? Like who is purchasing this type of thing? Can you go a bit deeper on that?
Absolutely. Basically, so the way it all started is doing it for parties. So like if someone was having a sweet 16 birthday party, they would rent the number 16, which are 3-foot wood letters that my husband builds himself. And so they rent those out. And then I would attach, if they wanted to attach balloons to it, I would attach balloons, that sort of thing. I've also done corporate events for businesses, just for like their big events or even small events. I've done schools and graduations and baby showers and weddings, any event that you could possibly think of. I've pretty much done a lot of different events, and it's just kind of growing from there.
If somebody was having, let's say, their 50th birthday party, just for argument's sake, they could get a giant 50, it's all lit up, and then there's sort of this giant balloon display built around it. So it's sort of like I don't want to call it a centerpiece because you think something small on the table, but this is something actually quite large, like a large decorative piece for a party or an event.
Absolutely. Like it could be on the larger scale or it could be on a smaller scale. So if someone who was having it in their house, we could make it work in their house. If they were having it at a venue, we can make it big, right? So it depends, like garlands versus arches, like the big circle arch. But what it's all about is that picture. It's a focal point of the party. So like it brings the party all together.
So it's like an Instagrammable opportunity. You take a selfie in front of the display piece?
Absolutely. It's all about the Instagram pictures.
Okay. And so everything you do is custom, it sounds like.
Everything's custom, yes. Absolutely. Everything is custom.
So you mentioned all different types of things you do. I mean, graduations and birthdays and anniversaries and weddings and different stuff like that. So I'm assuming the response has been pretty positive.
It has been. It's all basically word of mouth and through social media. Because that's just the way everything happens these days. But it has been pretty positive. So when we started, it was like kind of done it. I was doing it for a few friends here and there, and then it kind of grew from there. Literally, I would say, pardon the pun, but blew up from there, right? So, right? Like I can't help myself whenever I say it.
It only took us a couple minutes of chatting to get to balloon jokes, so I like that. I appreciate that. How long have you been doing this?
like as a hobby for a couple of years, but like as of now, registered, insured business, all legit. This year was the actual starting of it, like kind of on the book.
Oh, good.
No, before it was kind of like, can you do this for me? Or is this something that you can do? And I was absolutely doing it and growing and just learning as I go, which is always interesting.
Now you're based in Fort Erie. What areas do you serve?
All of Niagara region, and I have gone into the Hamilton Halton area, but generally it's been in the Niagara region.
So if somebody wanted to contact you, Grace, and say, hey, I have an idea for a party coming up, or I'd like something custom done, how does that work? Would they contact you and then you'd go out to meet with them to get a sense of the space? How does that process work?
Absolutely. So we could do a consult. So I would go out to look at the space if someone contacted me and they wanted something very specific, then that we couldn't really, like if I needed to see and kind of envision what, like kind of, so I could make their vision come to life. I like to go and see the place and kind of scope it out, measure, make sure that everything would fit properly. That sort of thing, just to make sure like everything's perfect for their event. Because there's nothing more stressful than having to worry about something not going right for your event. So that's part of my business is to make sure that my clients are happy and they're getting exactly what they're looking for.
How, on the day of the event, though, I mean, are you kind of assembling everything on site, or are you building it ahead of time and then transporting it? How does that work logistically?
Yeah, so we have everything. We have all of the letters and numbers in our inventory currently in my basement. So because we're just growing, right? So we have everything here, and then we deliver it to wherever we need to deliver and set up there. So I wouldn't make my balloons on site unless they were helium. I would make them at home, and then when I get to the venue, I set up everything there. So I always prefer to have like a couple of hours, if possible, to set up. And so everything's, because I get pretty fussy about my balloons and their placement and everything like that. I just want everything to be perfect.
Oh, I don't blame you. I don't blame you, because it's a very visual oriented business. So you want everything to be perfect.
Yeah.
So
I love being able to be creative for people and bring their vision to life, or even sometimes a lot of people just say, you do your thing, which is always pretty exciting. And I just go there and create something and go from there.
Yeah, that would be me. I'd be the latter, because I have no ability to visualize stuff like that. It would just be like, Grace, just do whatever you think is best, because I'm sure it'll look great.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people like that.
Well, and sometimes it's easier. It's a bit like I'm the same way when I go to see my barber. You know, it's like that dude knows the back of my head a lot better than I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it's better just to let professionals just do their thing, right? That's the way I see it. But
absolutely.
You mentioned a moment ago, I think the word you used was legit. You said this was sort of the first, licensed business, legit year in business. You also made a reference to growth, that you're growing right now. What is that going to look like? Because you're working out of your home right now. Are you planning to maybe get some commercial space, or what are you thinking there?
I'm not quite sure. Like, we've dabbled about the idea of getting a commercial spot, but I'm not quite sure that that's the direction, like having a balloon store, where people would come in and grab something. I'm not quite sure that that's the direction I want to go in, but definitely for a space for because we have taken over my kids' basement area, like that was their spot. So
sure.
Now the letters and numbers and balloons have taken over everything. We also have backdrops, like for different picture backdrops and stuff like that people like to have for their parties and stuff like that. That's all downstairs, and the frames and arches and stuff. So currently everything's in my basement. So looking for, it might be down the road, looking for something where we can store stuff.
Got it. That makes sense. I got it. So I've mentioned a few times that I've had the privilege, and maybe not everybody has, I've seen some of your finished products, and they're excellent. You've got a Facebook page, which is the name of the business, Crafted by Grace. Is there anywhere else that folks could go to view samples of work that you've done before?
I'm also on Instagram, And we also I'm in the process of developing a website so that someone could go to the website. You know, not everybody is on social media, so people can go to the website and be able to kind of browse what we have, because there's so much. Like, there's so much even on social media that I have not shared yet, that we have in our inventory and stuff like that. So there's a lot going, lots of work to do in our business, which is great because it's growing, and that's what it's all about, right? So
yeah, I think the website's a great idea, and I think anywhere else you are on social is a great idea too, because of you having such a visual business. You know, I know when you and I first met, you'd mentioned all of these different things you do, but it wasn't until I actually saw photos of your work on Facebook that I understood the scale to which you do these things.
Yes, I know. Because when people get the idea of these marquee letters, sometimes people think that they're just like on the tabletop or something like that.
Yeah.
And that they're not like quite, they're big and they're substantial. So, you know, it's fun to have at a party. It's not something that people have all the time. And it's something, you know, when you want to celebrate and you want to go all out, then that's what you have. And
what does, and I'm sure there's a broad range of answers here, but what does something like this cost? If somebody wanted to get like a Sweet 16 balloon arrangement with the numbers, like the whole, I mean, can you give us a range or a ballpark?
Absolutely. So each of our letters and our numbers, our 3-foot letters and numbers are $35 each to rent. And then we also have 4-foot, 4.5-foot numbers and the word love that we rent out as well. And those are $45. And the balloons, they honestly range. Like, if someone told me, Grace, I can only spend $50 on balloons, then I would make something that is $50 worth. But yeah, it's kind of just, there's no magical price when it comes to the balloons.
Got it. And that's why people should contact you directly for what they have in mind, and and get a quote for their job.
Absolutely. And I personalize balloons too. So like, if someone wanted something very specific and someone, like, if there's an inside joke or something like that, that's something that I can also create on a balloon as well.
Oh, that's cool. Well, how would what's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you if they want a quote, they want to ask some questions? How should they do that?
You can either contact me via cell phone on my cell phone, and you can get my number is on my on social media, or my email, which is craftedbygrace@hotmail.com.
Okay, so craftedbygrace@hotmail.com. And did you want to share your cell number for listeners?
Yeah, sure thing. It's 905-658-7013.
905-658-7013. Okay. Hey, one question I really wanted to ask you. Why balloons? Why this specific business?
That's so funny. Okay, so it started like in the middle of COVID, when nobody was able to celebrate birthdays, and people were looking for creative ways to celebrate birthdays and make their people's birthdays special. So I had purchased a Cricut machine, which, you can make all these different personalized plaques and woods and all that other stuff. And then my husband was flipping through Instagram looking at different ideas, and he saw these big bubble balloons, and he said, look at these, you can personalize them. So we ordered them, and then we tried it, and that was it. I made one for my girlfriend, and she put it on Facebook and said, look at my, happy birthday to my daughter. And then someone messaged me and said, hey, can you make one of those for me? And then that was it. Took off from there.
Isn't that funny? I feel like we've had a big string recently on the Fort Erie podcast of local business owners who all found this need to do something or create something during the pandemic. It was like there was a real desire there to be social and to create something. And it's cool. Balloons ended up being what you settled on,
Absolutely. I went from a really stressful job also. Like, I used to work with troubled youth for 20 years. And so then I decided I definitely needed a change after 20 years. And now I make people happy. I just wanted to be able to use my creativeness and make people happy. That's what I love to do.
Wow. Well, and when you say troubled youth, I mean, thank you for that. I mean, were you, could we call it social work? Is that the type of thing you were doing?
Actually, it was technically a youth care worker, but I worked, it used to be a detention center for young offenders.
Oh, wow.
And then I did that for 10 years, and then they started to close all the beds down for young offenders. And then it turned into a group home for kids that couldn't be placed in fact group homes and stuff like that, be either for behavioral reasons or for other reasons. And so I did that for the other 10 years. And I loved doing it, but I definitely needed it. It was a hard job.
Fort Erie job leads.
If you happen to be on the hunt for a new job here in town, I'm hoping one of these leads will point you in the right direction. Utopia Lounge in Crystal Beach is looking to add on a new team member who has their SmartServe certification as well as some barista experience. You can apply in person at 408 Derby Road. Then Fort Erie International Academy is hiring a full-time dishwasher. There's no experience required for this one. You can apply through the website Indeed. Airbus Helicopters is looking for a composite paint technician. It looks like this role would involve afternoon and day shift. Garrison Place is seeking a dietary aide for all shifts. It's a permanent and part-time position. The Barrel is advertising for two different roles, a cashier as well as a morning prep cook. The pay ranges from $16 to $22 an hour, which I'm going to guess is based upon level of experience. Both of these roles have the potential for full-time hours. They're both permanent. And in the benefits listed here, it mentions that Barrel restaurant employees get discounted or free food, which I think that's a great perk, man. The Beastbridge Duty Free is hiring for a sales associate / cashier. This would be for both day and afternoon shift. North Star Location Services at 350 Birdie Street is looking for a collection agent. This is a full-time permanent position. It involves some shift work, and there are some benefits available, such as health benefits, dental care, life insurance, but you need to have at least 1 year of call center experience to apply. The Fort Erie Native Cultural Center is looking for a director. This is a 1 year contract position. It would involve reporting to the executive director. You can apply by sending your resume to Kathleen Moses. Looks like you can just drop it off in person, I guess, at 796 Buffalo Road. Erie Distribution Services is looking for forklift operators and general laborers. These are full-time positions, Monday to Friday, 7 to 4. There are benefits available for employees after 6 months of service. If you want to apply for this one, call 905-871-6409. And just lastly, I'll mention that S&S Plastics, they're looking for a packer. It says here the job is to trim and package parts. The shift is from 4 p.m. until midnight, and you can apply by emailing sands@belnet.ca. So that's SANDS at belnet.ca.
This month in Fort Erie history.
This round of This Month in Fort Erie history is going to be a little bit different from others. Usually I pick kind of one historical event, something that happened in the town of Fort Erie, and give you my interpretation of those historical events. But I wanted to use this time for this episode to talk about September 11th, 2001, or 22 years ago this month. Hopefully we all remember to give pause every year to take a moment to remember the victims. I think everyone pretty well remembers where they were that day, what they were doing when they found out the World Trade Center had been attacked. I grew up in Oshawa. I was in high school at the time. And Oshawa, by the way, is not a border town. To me, at the time, New York City might as well have been 17,000 miles away. I mean, geographically, I had no concept of how close New York actually was. I think that might be different in a border town. You live in Fort Erie, you know that you border New York State. You probably have friends in New York State. Now, I didn't live in Fort Erie at the time, of course, but I was curious about what the response was like in our town, specifically being a border town with an international crossing. So I put up a Facebook post to ask local residents who did live here in 2001 what they remember, what the response was like. And even though these terrorist attacks did not directly hurt our town, let's say, I have to imagine that the response here was different, especially with truckers and travelers being stranded at the border. So I'm going to share some of the comments I received. I'm not going to go through all of them for the sake of brevity, but a few comments here that I thought were poignant. So Sarah said she was in grade 6 at Birdie Public School. She said a few teachers told ours, as in our teacher, to turn on the news. Our teacher refused for a while. When he finally did turn on the news, a few kids started crying because they had a parent who was a truck driver currently in New York. As a sixth grader, you don't realize that New York State is not what they were showing, but New York City. Yeah, I mean, how old are you in grade 6? Like 12? So the TV comes up and just says New York is under attack. You've got family, and I imagine a lot of people in this town had friends, family, loved ones, in New York somewhere. Whether it was Manhattan or not is besides the point. I mean, they were in New York, and that had to be terrifying for children. I mean, I barely wrapped my head around it as a high school student. It is hard to imagine that much suffering and death. And for sixth graders to see this and try to make sense of it, knowing full well that they have loved ones in New York. I mean, I can't even imagine. Carrie replied, I should say, I was working at the Peace Bridge duty free that morning. It was on the big screen TV. Things happened so fast. The border shut. Pentagon plane was still in the air and nobody knew their target, possibly the Peace Bridge. We were sent home with no idea what would happen next. I just wanted to get my kids from school, get my husband home from work. That's when I developed news addiction and sleepless nights. It was absolutely terrifying. Yeah, to the point about news addiction, the events of September 11th are often attributed to the creation of the 24-hour news cycle. We didn't have this sort of big media 24-hour news cycle 22 years ago. It wasn't until September 11th happened that people became glued, and there became a demand, glued to their TV, I should say. There became a demand for constant access to information. And of course, that only got worse in years to come with the development of social media. But the point I find maybe most terrifying in this comment is when she says possibly the Peace Bridge with a question mark, because that Pentagon plane was still in the air and nobody knew their target. That, like, something like that never even occurred to me. The people in a border town might be going, well, who knows? Are we under attack next? Scary stuff, man. And I also wanted to read this comment here from Angela, and she kind of gets to the heart of the issue here because she says, I saw it on TV live. After borders were closed, there were transport trucks everywhere. Yeah, I imagine there would be because they have nowhere to go, right? She says they lined the QEW, Helena Street. They opened up the old car storage lot on Helena to transports. Various community members, service clubs, charities, and businesses began rallying to help feed and take truckers to places for facility uses. Yeah, this is really getting to the heart of what I mean by a local response here in Fort Erie, because this town is always generous. I found in my experience, having lived here now for over 9 years, that people go out of their way to help others. And so we have this surplus of truckers and travelers stranded here, some of them probably who have friends and family back across the border that they are worried about. It's not like it's 2023 where you can just pull out your phone and send somebody a text. That wasn't really a thing in 2001. So I wanted to get a little deeper into this about, okay, well, what was our town's response? And quite fortunately, a local gentleman called the Byrd Box this week and left a voicemail. He left a message for the show sharing what he recalls about the town's response, how local businesses responded, and so on and so forth. So let's get to that message right now.
It's Fort Erie's answering machine, the Byrd Box.
Welcome to the Byrd Box. It's the answering machine for the Fort Erie podcast. You can call in 24 hours a day, squawk about anything you like, and I play those messages right here on the show. Now, I just mentioned that somebody had called in to share some experiences from 9/11. Just have a listen.
Yeah, I just want to give an update for the 9/11 info. During that, there was the truckers were stranded over here, and the town put them up at the racetrack and a parking lot down on Helena. Bus company I worked for, Dunn the Mover, which is now Switzer-Carty, they supplied a bus to shuttle the truck drivers to the Leisureplex so they could have a shower. And I was told by a couple of drivers that our town got put in a trucker magazine saying that we took care of the truckers better than any crossing in Ontario.
Well, that's pretty incredible. If that's true, I'd be curious to know what magazine Fort Erie was featured in. And this is a great example of private business, Dunn the Mover getting involved. And I'm sure other community groups, other businesses, other volunteers must have been involved too. But you think about all these truck drivers being stranded who can't get back over the border. So, their trucks, their big rigs are being parked on Helena Street. They're being parked at the racetrack. And then what do you do with all these truckers? Well, Dunn the Mover comes in, takes them to the Leisureplex so they can at least have a shower, a little bit of dignity despite all the tragedy. So great message. And by the way, for everybody listening, if you have your own stories, your own things you remember, people rallying around town to help, when all this was happening, it's going to be September all month long. We can talk about this month in Fort Erie history right up till the end of September. So leave your messages on the Byrd Box, 289-599-2973. I've got another caller here who left a message sharing what she was doing on 9/11. Have a listen.
9/11, where was I? I was involved in corporate travel in St. Catharines at the time. So we spent the next afternoon looking to see what clients were down there, trying to get a hold of them and to get them back. And we kind of cut by cell phone back and forth.
Yeah, there's a few things to note in this message. I mean, okay, so she's in corporate travel. They've got clients. They got to try to get them back home to Canada. And, getting a hold of people, I'd have to think would have been very difficult at the time. She talks about cell phones, but I mean, cell phones weren't as advanced then as they are now. And not only getting them back, I mean, travel in general was so heavily restricted over the next little bit. I bet you there's a lot of travel agents who have travel agents or corporate travel, as this caller says, who probably had their hands full trying to get people back home or back to safety. So thank you for that call. And then I'm going to play a third message, completely unrelated, that I received this week. I'm a bit confused by this, but Here it is.
I was just trying to see who won the gift cards.
Well, I'm assuming this caller was referring to the my August Green Acres 50-50-50 giveaway. And dear caller, thank you for the message. The winners were announced in the previous episode of the Fort Erie podcast. You can go back and check out episode number 65. I also posted the winners to Facebook. I also posted the winners to Instagram. I also contacted the winners directly, and I sent out an email blast. I have an email marketing list of about 1,100 local email contacts. I sent out an email, and I'm guessing you're probably on my email list. So maybe the email went to spam or something. I don't know. But the winners of the my Green Acres giveaway have already been announced. So I'm guessing you were not one of them. Anyway, appreciate the calls. As always, Fort Erie, 289-599-BYRD. Call the Byrd Box, squawk about anything you'd like.
Have something you want to squawk about? Let the whole town know what's on your mind. Call the Byrd Box at 289-599-2973. That's 289-599-BYRD.
I've got just one last thing that I want to add to our conversation today about 9/11. I just got this in my inbox. I reached out to Fort Erie Historical Museum about a week ago, looking for any information they might have, a newspaper archive, something like that, any sort of info or they would have from in and around September 11th, 2001 that specifically had a Fort Erie flavor or focus to it. And I got a response here from the museum's curator, Jessica Steffler, who, by the way, I'd love to have Jessica on the show. If you are listening, if you'd like to be a guest on the Fort Erie podcast, Jessica, please just reach out because I'd be happy to chat with you. But Jessica informed me that unfortunately, no, they do not have a newspaper archive or anything like that from that time period. But what she did point me to was the town's council minutes from 2001. And I've got some pulled up in front of me here. These are minutes from a regular council meeting on September 24th, 2001. And these notes here, these remarks are from Mayor Wayne Redekop, of course, because this dude's been our mayor forever. You guys know, how long has Mayor Wayne Redekop been our mayor? You guys know I've only been in town here 9 years, so I got to look this up because I know he's served something like 5 terms, and he was our mayor for a bit, and then he wasn't, and then he was the mayor again. So I have no idea. I thought going back over 2 decades, it would be somebody else. But nope, these remarks are from Mayor Wayne Redekop. It says here, Mayor Redekop recognized and thanked all who have responded to the crisis in the United States over the past 2 weeks. And it goes on to say, Mayor Redekop thanked Canadian Niagara Power Company for raising the 70 by 5 foot banner on the power transmission tower located at the foot of Queen Street. The banner is in recognition of our U.S. neighbors in this time of need and reads, "God bless our American friends." Okay, so this is exactly the kind of thing that I was looking for. A nice gesture, a response from our town. And if you think about putting up a 70-foot banner at the base of Queen Street, that would have been clearly visible to our American friends in Buffalo. They would have been able to see that over the river. So I think this is a really nice gesture, and it brings everything in today's episode full circle because I started out today by showing a bit of sympathy to Canadian Niagara Power for all the abuse that they take. When there's an unplanned power outage, people get upset and they lose their minds, but don't forget, 22 years ago, this month in Fort Erie history, Canadian Niagara Power also did a very very kind thing for our neighbors. So I appreciate that. And I also appreciate everyone who participated, who contributed to today's episode. Thank you for sharing your experiences with me about September 11th, 2001. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider sharing it with a friend. Follow me on social media. I'm at Buy with Brent everywhere. You can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and get your messages in on the Byrd Box, 289-599-BYRD. Next episode, next Tuesday, number 68, will feature Lisa Kelleher. She'll be joining me. She's the owner of Crescent Gardens Florist on Ridge Road, so be sure to catch that. And in closing, let me just say that if, God forbid, we have another unplanned power outage this month, please don't send abusive or hateful comments to Canadian Niagara Power. We're better than that, Fort Erie. Come on. You getting upset does not get our power back on any faster. Okay, that's it. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Fort Erie Podcast with your host, Brent Jones. Never miss an episode. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or visit theforteriepodcast.com.